All right. Greetings, dear ones. Greetings. Aero speaks. Our channel spells our name Aero. We know the date to be February 21, 21. Yes. So, there's been, as you're probably aware, so much shift in energy. Yeah? And just recently, approximately the 16th of this month, just a few days in passing, the most recent shift in the energetic vibration has been what we would call reclaiming authority for self. So what's happening is you're beginning to become aware, perhaps through irritation, perhaps through anger, perhaps through depression or anxiety or fearfulness. You're becoming aware that you have been giving away, quite unconsciously, parts of your life, power over self. And because of this, there is an imbalance in your energy. You are meant to recognize yourself as the creator of your reality. You are meant to very consciously be creating with your thoughts, your beliefs, your attitudes, your expectations, your emotions, creating your own reality. But in your society, you are taught as children that you are not capable, and you have very few adults to teach you how to accomplish this, and they don't even teach you how to recognize that love is the predominant energy of your environment, and that fear is a resistance to love. Fear is given to humanity as a gift. It was never meant to be something that imposed constrictions upon you. It was meant to act rather like the brakes in your automobile. Would you want to drive a car that you couldn't slow down when it felt going too fast? So fear was meant to cause you to question, to wonder. It wasn't meant to terrorize and demean. And so your society has misunderstood how to use this very powerful but very important energy. So what we want you to understand with this new opportunity that's being made available to you, there's no punishment involved. This is all about waking you up to where you're allowing authority outside of self to determine important things about you, about your life. This could be from programming from childhood or adolescent. It could be that there's a power imbalance in a marriage or in a family relationship. This could be that you allow, one of the biggest that you've seen recently is you give over authority to politicians, yeah? And it's becoming more and more obvious that they really don't have your best interests at heart for the most part. Some do, but by and large, they've gotten so caught up in their own story, they've kind of forgotten what they committed to do. So this time is for individuals to become much more clear in terms of what they are responsible for. And let us make that as plain as we can possibly make it. You are responsible for your life. You are responsible for its happiness, for its health, for its abundance, for your connection to spirit, to love, to joy. A lot of people, and those who are not people, such as ourselves, would love to help you, would be delighted to be of assistance, but no one, please understand that, no one can do it for you. You know, this idea that someone offers to take you to Disneyland, if Disneyland were open for a week, and it would be like, how wonderful, they're going to give me this beautiful adventure, I'm so excited. And that's a lovely gift, but that is an opportunity for you to know happiness. They're not making you happy. They're making an opportunity for you to create and choose happiness for self. It sounds like a subtle distinction, but it is oh so important. No one can make you feel anything. They can provide an environment in which you have trained yourself to react. Someone who cuts you off in traffic, well, they're just rude and thoughtless and you're angry. That's learned behavior. Instead, you could admit, I was frightened for a moment. I don't care for that feeling, but I don't have to cover it up with anger. I can simply let the fear pass through, reassure and calm myself that I am well and my vehicle is well, and we go on with our trip without having to blame or make excuses or punish. It's the same in relationships. You know, Mother Nature, we'll be very honest with you, never intended for long-term monogamous relationships. Mother Nature was about perpetuating the species in the healthiest way possible. And that would be that each fertile female mates with as many different males as possible to create children that have a wide variety of genes. Because with the wider variety of genes, the better possibility of the success and perpetuation of the health and well-being of the race you call humans. But your society came in and said it's very difficult to control people when they have that much autonomy and freedom. So let us begin to subjugate them to rules such as organized religion and societal mores such as marriage. So these things were imposed almost as a way to control individuals. And it's not that marriage is bad or wrong. We don't say that. What we're saying is that if you're choosing to stay in a marriage, if it continues to serve you, if on a day-to-day basis it is generating happiness and contentment and giving you opportunities to grow and learn more about who you are and what you value, absolutely remain in that relationship. If it is not providing those things, then it is time to decide if that relationship can be remade, if new agreements with the partner can be created, negotiated, agreed to, that would generate that happiness. And if it's not possible, then why are you choosing something that does not reflect love of self? When you put others' importance ahead of your own, you're not allowing the love that you deserve to flow to you. You're choosing to be less than, which is a form of fear. When you choose to be less than, then you are, in effect, putting the brakes, the fear, on how much love you're willing to allow into your day-to-day reality. So in this time, when you have this opportunity to be looking at and becoming more aware of where you are giving away bits and pieces of your life. Who decided your career? Who decided your retirement plan? Yes. Who decided how many children you were going to have? Who decided how much money you should make? Now, on the surface, we've spent enough time with most of you where you know that we're looking for the answer which says me. But that's not always your truth. Really want you thinking about this idea of self-determination and how many people have influenced it throughout your life and how healthy and balanced are those influences. Now, we recently worked with a woman in a marriage with 3 small children, and she said to us, I'm very unhappy in my marriage. My husband no longer values me. He's made that abundantly clear over and over. And yet I feel very stuck because if I leave the marriage, I don't know how to provide for my 3 young children without his support. And so we asked her, do you understand what you're teaching your children by being a martyr, by being a victim? This idea that you don't know how does not preclude that you will figure it out by asking for help. The most important thing you can do is to love self, and in that love of self, letting go of fear as best you can, letting go of the shoulds or have-tos as best you can, you make so much more room for love to come into your vibration. And when love comes into the vibration, when you allow more flow, then opportunities and possibilities that align with that love become present. So we understand, we have lived with this channel long enough, this lifetime and others. We understand you have to pay bills, you must buy groceries, you must have food, you must have a warm place to sleep, water to drink. We understand all of that. But this idea that you limit yourself out of fear of the future, out of not knowing how to change, these are at the heart of them, as powerful as they are, excuses, rationalizations. And if you give over your life to excuses and rationalizations, that's your right. The life is yours to do with as you choose. You are a creature of free will. You are a consciousness of free will. But we simply want to remind you and point out that you at any moment can choose to align with unconditional love, and in that alignment to be gifted, granted, grow, find, discover the courage that says, I deserve to be loved. I deserve to have it all. And what's in the way of me receiving the having it all is the fear that I've imposed. Now, often that fear is a result of wanting to please other humans, because if I please them, then they will love me. I will have earned their love. This is a very slippery, dangerous concept, because once you align earning with love, it stops being love. Can you hear that? Once you align earning with love, it stops being love. Yes. So there's a lot of confusion in your world, in some of the people in the audience this evening, about this very concept, which is why we're sharing it. In a class we taught recently, what we suggested to our students was that they look in their day-to-day reality for where they're making use of other people's time and money without their permission. That sounds like it's off topic, but it's really not, because when you start seeing that behavior in yourself, you will then begin to see where you're allowing other people to do the same thing to you. So an example, our channel was stuck in traffic behind a person whose car was positioned in such a way that she could not move around it. There was no way to back up. And so she literally, it was a few moments of her life, but they were precious moments at that time, trying to get to take care of the spouse who needed her. And so it was very, very frustrating that one person was imposing, in effect, stealing time and energy from her, was her perspective. And this is common in your world. Now, what could she have done? Yeah. Well, there was a lot going on off to the side, if you will, for her in terms of how to create conflict resolution, which she eventually did. But understand that that's just one example. So when you go to drive down the road and you see graffiti, and sometimes it's beautiful. They're amazing graffiti artists. But did they have permission to deface that property that does not belong to them? Were they in effect taking someone else's time and money that they used to create the original surface? Maybe they wanted the look of stone. They wanted the look of the plaster or the stucco without this artwork attached to it. So there's evidence everywhere in your world. You know, it's as simple as at preschool when a child takes 2 cookies, and then that means the last child in line, there's no snack left for them. It sounds small, but it's the energetic concept behind it that I am an island and my behavior does not have impact on others. This is your first baby step, being immersed into the awareness that you are an interconnected whole as a race of beings. What one individual a member of the race of humans does impacts vibrationally every other human that lives. It's that big. But you have individual bubbles that you think you are unique and separate. You are not. You are a unique expression within that whole, but you are still vibrationally connected. Well, you cannot force your will as a healthy person. You will not force your will upon another. So the only way to change is to impose upon self. I will hold myself accountable to be within my integrity, to be within my balance, my loving balance. In this way, I will generate more love for self, and my impact on others will be from this higher vibration of love. We really want you thinking about this, because this is the major energetic impact that's going to be with you for about the next 58 years at this point. This idea that you are a member, an aspect, a piece of the whole, and what you do impacts the whole. So it's a big concept, which is why you're being led into it a step at a time. And this is the first step, the awareness that your choices impact the whole of humanity. So, all is vibration. We are vibration. You are light beings, vibrational beings who are inserted into a density that allows you to have this physical form. And yet, beneath the layer of the skin, the bone, you are still a vibrational light being. And like will call to like, and dislike will repel. This idea that you are starting to form communities. The first step, as you become aware of just how important it is to own yourself in all things, your choices, your responsibilities, then you begin to draw to you like-minded people. And in this way, you build communities. And you begin to support each other very consciously. You are not yet conscious of your connection and participation in the whole. Birthing of these connected communities is the next step in the progression to that awareness that you are a piece and a part of the whole. This idea that you've heard so many times in the last decade about three-dimensionality giving away to fifth dimensionality. In the fifth dimension, you are conscious and you are aware of what it means in terms of what you can receive and what you can give as a conscious being of the whole. So much to learn, so much to experience. And it's meant to be a journey of love, not of fear, but of delight and exploration and adventure. And as you are able to give up the constrictions, the doubt, the fear, the judgment, the blame, the excuses, the rationalization, and so much more, you make space for the joy, the curiosity, the adventure, the excitement, and the overall day-to-day happiness. So always choose to be aware of your response ability, and become aware of where it is constricted, and make the choice to give your overall focus to loving self so that you might then impact others from that place of love. That is our sharing for you this evening. We are grateful you have given us the space for this sharing. And so we go forward with the question and answers of this evening. So we would ask, who would speak? Well, let us give you some perspective. So if we look at, let's see if we can do the math pretty easily. Let's say 1940 to 2000. All right, you have that 60-year time frame kind of just
Yes.
earmarked?
Yes.
How much did technology change in those 60 years? Yeah, huge, right? There was no such thing as a portable phone in 1940. You were still at the place where you were generating a world war. And you hadn't even truly developed aircraft safely. You had the beginnings of it from 1918, but it wasn't really an industry. You hadn't developed spacecraft or space travel. You hadn't been to the moon. You hadn't developed alternative fuel sources. You were dependent upon petroleum. And overall, it was a very patriarchal, chauvinistic, very limited opportunities for 51% of your population, i.e. females. There was very limited, just beginning to understand this idea of free will, that what really broke open in the 1950s was education for the masses. Before the 1950s, education was primarily for the wealthy. So if you just take a breath and think about all that was accomplished in that epoch of time, but it didn't happen overnight. Yeah, it took decades, building one upon the other. Even horrific things such as child abuse. Sexual child abuse existed throughout human history. In the 50s, in the 40s, 50s, even into the 60s, 70s, and even into the 1980s, no one talked about it. Even if you knew or suspected that it was happening, some family around you, what did you do about it? You didn't know what to do. Even if you called the police, they would say, we can't interfere. You understand how much has changed in 60 years? But it happened so gradually, you see? And the same will happen with this epoch of time, 2012 to approximately 2072. So perhaps our math is off, but we calculated that at approximately 58 years of time. We're off a little bit, 50 years of time, plus or minus. Yeah. So it's not a burden on you to say, I've got to figure it out today. We don't know anyone on the planet, we'll be honest. Perhaps His Holiness the Dalai Lama's come the closest. But the average individual is still all about me. And you're starting to see it. So what's happened in your political arenas in the United States, the conflict over democracy versus fascism, and that's exactly where you were at. The only reason we're able to have this conversation now is because you bypassed fascism by the skin of your teeth. Yes?
Yes.
Yes. That's how important that election was, because it opened this possibility. Instead of heading into World War III, you're now heading into this epoch of time. You turned a corner into which now we can begin to allow the value of our spiritual nature to become known to us. 2 days ago, this is what day is this? This is Thursday of your week. There was the release of a scientific documentary on the value of chakras. It's amusing, isn't it? Because people that are energetically aware have talked about chakras for how many hundreds of years? Ancient Egypt, they talked about chakras. But your science base is finally saying, there might be something to that. That's how the change begins. So yes, it is a huge topic, and it is a challenge to keep it in front of you. But what you might do is challenge yourself by asking, what is my responsibility to my community? Might start with, what is my responsibility to self? What is my responsibility to my family, my friends, my intimate ones? What is my responsibility to my community? What is my responsibility to all consciousness? At some point, you will be looking at what is my responsibility to the being that you call Earth, others call Gaia. The earth itself has a consciousness. You're not ready to really consciously digest that concept, but it will be offered to you over and over again. It was meant to be a symbiotic relationship between the earth consciousness and the human consciousness. So far, not too symbiotic, yes? More taking than giving, and it will balance itself out over time. It's like the course of human history, very matriarchal in Lemuria, coming into extreme patriarchal in Atlantis, swinging back and forth between these two concepts until hopefully now you're going to rest at the midpoint where all has value. So the easiest, if we can think of that concept, obviously it's individual for everyone, where they're challenged with this and where the easier ways to find egress into this concept and align with it. Perhaps the easiest is to look at what you don't value, what generates anger, what generates frustration, and then recognize that that is a mirror for you. When you are angry, such as our channel actually got angry at the person that was blocking her way. It didn't last long, it's about 3 minutes, but it bothered her that she actually got angry at this person's thoughtlessness. They didn't care that they were inconveniencing and causing stress to, 10 other people. Didn't care. And that generated a sense of frustration and anger in the channel. And so we challenged her to look in the mirror of that. Where had she been thoughtless? Where had she been oblivious? And when she found those moments, she could forgive this person and herself and break another little chunk off of the resistance to being cognizant that she is a part of the whole. Is this helpful?
Yes, it is. I think for me it will be a lot of being more present in each minute, and
exactly
will be helpful instead of thinking about, oh, I should have, or oh, tomorrow I'm gonna, or So.
Well, and we will be very honest with you that so much of human consciousness is habitualized. What do we mean by that? What we mean is that if you see a stoplight, you brake, you stop your car. It's not because you actually think, oh, that's red, another car. No, that red, I must stop. But also, when you hear certain language, words that for whatever reason offend you, you shut down your heart. Because there's a judgment. If that person is using that language, they're not what I would call a good person, and I don't want to spend time with them. I don't want to be near them. I don't want them in my energy. You see, and all this is you're still going to have the choice of who you align with and who you don't, but you're going to be birthing true compassion. And we're going to be talking, we're going to have a class with our channel coming up early in March. And it's because compassion is the next tool for humans to embrace. Compassion for self. Compassion for others. Because by its very nature, you have to have an awareness of another to generate compassion for them. So you can't stand at a distance and observe and see how different they are and generate compassion. It doesn't work. So there's so many tools that are going to become available to you as you peel away the layers of resistance to being at peace in this new vibration.